Okay, I want to welcome everyone to Health Talk. My name is James. I am your host for Health Talk. I'm also your host for another power-hitting internet talk radio show, very controversial, very hard-hitting truth, called Censored Returns. It's based on politics and religion, and it is a reading from my partner, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman's over 30-year-old newsletter Censored. I did the show with him for 4 years. Now, this is my baby. This is health, nutrition, holistic health, alternative and complementary medicine, fitness. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start the show with a reading. Here, an article called Antioxidant Superstars, Resveratrol and Green Tea, backed by National Cancer Institute. The new year is well underway. Okay, this came out at the beginning of this year. The new year is well underway. I hope that those of you who made New Year's resolutions are sticking to them. Keep in mind that when you embark on a new venture, such as an exercise program, diet, and so on, naturally, there will be times that you'll slip up. Don't be discouraged when this occurs. Just continue to push forward. Many of you who read this newsletter, this article, don't believe the U.S. government and specifically our national medical organizations have any real interest in promoting natural remedies for health conditions. No, they really don't. Because they can't patent Mother Nature and make a fortune off of it and rip people off. What you're about to read may surprise you. On the National Cancer Institute website, which is part of the U.S. National Institutes of Health, there are fact sheets, quote unquote. On November 27th, 2002, the National Cancer Institute posted information about red wine and cancer prevention. They noted that polyphenols found in the skin and seeds of grapes have antioxidant properties. And research has shown that they may inhibit development of certain cancers. They highlight, in particular, a component of red wine called resveratrol, or oftenly called trans-resveratrol. Resveratrol has been shown to reduce cancer incidence in animals by affecting one or more stages in cancer development. Cellular and animal studies of red wine have been analyzed in several cancers, including leukemia, skin, breast, and prostate. The National Cancer Institute notes that resveratrol can reduce inflammation, which may be an effective chemo-preventative agent in three various stages of the cancer process, including initiation, promotion, and even progression. They further report that studies published in the International Journal of Cancer showed that drinking a glass of red wine a day may reduce risk of developing prostate cancer by 50%, and that men who consumed 4 or more 4-ounce glasses of red wine per week had a 60% lower incidence of the more aggressive types of prostate cancer. The National Cancer Institute also posted in their, quote, fact sheet, unquote, section on December 6, 2002, benefits of tea and cancer prevention. They explain that laboratory studies show certain compounds from tea, known as catechins, act as powerful inhibitors of cancer growth in several different ways. They note some epidemiological studies in humans comparing tea drinkers to non-tea drinkers. They indicate that in one study out of China, over 18,000 male tea drinkers were about half as likely to develop stomach or esophageal cancer compared to men who drank little tea. There was another study in the Netherlands, however, that didn't support these findings. Since the information was posted on the National Cancer Institute site. There have been numerous studies regarding the benefits of green tea. A study on green tea was just published on December 20th, 2006 in the medical journal Carcinogenesis. This study, involving over 1,000 women, indicated that those who consumed green tea at 500 to 749 grams per year reduced their risk of breast cancer by an amazing 41%. This would be a level of at least 1,500 milligrams per day. Researchers concluded long-term and regular consumption of green tea can reduce risk of breast cancer. Okay, the truly amazing information from a federal medical agency that tends to promote drugs, radiation, and surgery. Of course, you know from reading For Your Health that the above noted nutrients can be extremely powerful agents. Interestingly, there was just a study out of Germany indicating that polyphenols from tea can have benefits, blunted by adding milk. The study, which was reported online in the European Heart Journal, studied 16 healthy women volunteers over age 50. When the women drank half-liter of tea, their arteries relaxed to a significant degree, much more than when they drank hot water or tea with milk. Researchers felt that the casein proteins in the milk may have the neutralizing effect on the tea polyphenols. I'd like to move on to another group of interesting nutrients called probiotics, otherwise known as friendly bacteria. Probiotics help normalize the population of microbes normally found in the intestines. Quote, modulation of intestinal flora may be a promising, safe, and relatively inexpensive new option for abdominal pain, unquote, wrote Dr. Pierre Desrumeaux from INSERM Institute in Lille, France, in an article in the research journal Nature Medicine. Okay, using laboratory rats with induced abdominal pain, poor rats, researchers found that oral administration of lactobacillus strains led to an increase in the number of receptors for naturally produced pain-killing substances on cells lining the intestine. The findings suggest that intestinal microbiology influences the perception of visceral pain, researchers concluded. When you do a search on probiotics at the National Library of Medicine, there are over 3,000 published articles. The benefits of probiotics for promoting digestive, stomach, and colon health are just the starting point. Other studies suggest they can promote a healthy immune system. Okay, I recommend the use of a combination mixed full spectrum probiotic supplement, which includes Lactobacillus acidophilus, Bulgaris, Bifidus, Thermophilus, the whole ball of wax, because some live and do their positive function for your body in different areas of the gastrointestinal tract. Like, for instance, Lactobacillus acidophilus thrives in the small intestine, whereas Bifidus lives in the colon. And they have different functions. So you have to get the whole strain. There is a yogurt in supermarkets. It's organic. It's from Vermont. It's called Stonyfield yogurt. And that yogurt is the only one that I know of that's available in at least supermarkets here in the Northeast. that contains the full spectrum probiotics. Okay, there's one more brief article I'd like to mention. In the January 2007 edition of the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, Dr. Traber from the Linus Pauling Institute discussed the issue of vitamin E and heart disease. Dr. Traber noted that vitamin E, which has both antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties, may alone not be enough to provide benefit. In response to oxidation in the body, vitamin E can be destroyed and thus requires optimal levels of vitamin C in order for it to function more effectively. So it is important to take your antioxidants together. Vitamin E, vitamin C, selenium, natural vitamin A from fish oil, which is retinol. Zinc is also a benefit. Okay, now let us go on to another article. Let us just try to locate one here before we go on to the best of health talk. Okay. Here's something that concerns a lot of people, titled, "How Much is Too Much? Limit Your Intake of These Nutrients." Well, you have to be able to distinguish pharmaceutical industry propaganda and the truth. Okay, that's very important. Otherwise, you can be misled. This article is coming up. I just want everyone to know that the live broadcast of Health Talk can be heard every Sundays, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from either www.pirateradionetwork.com or Megalife21.com. And the show is under Megalife21. Okay. Although vitamins and minerals are typically extremely safe, excessive intakes of certain nutrients can have potentially detrimental effects. In the August 2006 edition of the Journal Archives of Neurology, researchers performed a prospective epidemiologic study on Chicago residents 65 years and older. Cognitive function was assessed at the onset of the study and then at 3-year intervals for a total of 6 years. Along with this was dietary assessment in a food questionnaire. Over 3,700 individuals participated in the study. It was found that diets high in saturated and trans fatty acids, along with higher copper intake, were associated with a more rapid rate of cognitive impairment. The next study I'll discuss is probably well known to all of you, published in the September 2006 edition of the Journal of the American Dietetic Association. This study found that portion sizes have considerably increased over the last 2 decades. 177 young adults were observed serving themselves breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Researchers then compared data from a similar study from 1984. Participants were noted to choose significantly larger portions of cornflakes, milk on cereal, orange, and fruit salad compared to their counterparts from 1984. One example they cited is that people can now buy, quote, a single serving container, unquote, of 2.2 cups of orange juice, a size that wasn't available 20 years ago. Authors concluded that bringing, quote, portion distortion, unquote, under control could help comfort and combat the growing diet-related problems in this country. In another study in the August 2006 American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, Researchers investigated whether loss of magnesium may contribute to loss of muscle mass in older people. Interesting. Muscle strength testing and function were evaluated in over 1,100 men and women with an average age of 67. Researchers found there was a very strong relationship between magnesium levels and muscle function after other factors were adjusted for. They noted that individuals with higher magnesium levels generally had a stronger hand grip, more power in their legs, and were able to extend their knees and ankles with more force. Dr. Dominguez, who headed up the study, noted that 68% of adults get less than the recommended daily allowance of magnesium, and that older people and those with chronic disease are at particularly high risk of magnesium deficiency. There are hundreds of studies proving adequate magnesium is essential for healthy cell function of the heart, brain, muscles, and nerves. I recommend 300 to 600 milligrams per day supplement in addition to what your diet provides. Okay. There was another interesting study published in the July 2006 edition of Clinical and Applied Thrombosis and Homeostasis. It's well known that individuals who suffer with elevated blood sugar have increased risk of developing leg ulcers, which, when associated with circulatory problems, can lead to amputation. In this study, 30 patients with elevated blood sugar who also had problems with microcirculation causing leg ulcers were split into 4 groups. The first group received 150 milligrams of pycnogenol orally, which is a pine bark extract, similar to grapeseed extract, which the main ingredient is oligomeric proanthocyanidins. And 100 milligram topically applied to the ulcerated area daily. The second group received only oral pycnogenol. The third group received only topical treatment, and the fourth group received no supplemental therapy other than standard routine ulcer care. It was found that after 6 weeks of treatment, the most significant healing of ulcers occurred in the group that received both the combination oral and topical treatment, with almost a 75% reduction in the size of the leg ulcers. The group that was given pycnogenol by mouth had a 43% decrease in leg ulcer size. The group given topical pycnogenol experienced a 33% reduction, and the fourth group, receiving no additional treatment other than routine ulcer care, had only a 22% decrease in the size of ulcers. Additionally, 89% of patients supplemented with both oral and topical pycnogenol were completely healed. In another study published in the September 2006 American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, researchers from Great Britain and Norway studied effects of tomato extract as a dietary supplement to prevent excessive stickiness of platelets, which can lead to abnormal clotting. In the study, 90 healthy adults with normal platelet function were randomized and double-blinded to receive either tomato extract or placebo. 3 hours after ingesting tomato extract, platelet aggregation was significantly reduced compared to the group that received placebo. Authors concluded that as a functional food or dietary supplement, tomato extract may have a role in promoting cardiovascular health by reducing platelet activation, which could contribute to a reduction in thrombotic events. My favorite and the most clinically studied and proven beneficial tomato extract happens to be a standardized tomato extract at the moment of 30 milligrams per day. And always, when you pick out a standardized extract of anything, just make sure that you choose the highest percentage number, not necessarily the highest amount of milligrams per capsule. Okay, always go for the higher percentage number of the active ingredient. Okay, so this concludes our articles for this week's live broadcast of Health Talk. After commercial, we are going to our first Health Talk topic, which is will be Health Talk Vitamin C Part 3, and then Changing Patterns. That'll be a conclusion from Vitamin C's Part 1 and 2. And then we'll just continue with the show. With the balance of the show will be consisting of the best of Health Talk from the archives of all the Health Talks I've done in 4 years' time, when I used to do Newsletter Censored, the Internet Talk Radio Show with the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman. And by the way, I think we have him right now. Take it away, Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, with commercial.
Are you reaching your fitness goals working out on your own or with a training partner? Has your health club fulfilled any of the promises made before they took that expensive annual membership fee? After you paid the expensive annual health club membership fee, does it include any personal training? Save money and avoid the high cost of one-on-one personal trainers, nutritional consultants, health club sales packages, with this complete, comprehensive fitness program with the website Personal Trainer. And are you sick and tired of all those low-flow shower heads, where it seems like it takes forever to rinse off, especially you ladies with long, thick hair? If so, then power your shower. These imported shower heads cannot be found in American stores. The website Personal Trainer and Power Your Shower can be found at www.megalife21.com. That's Megalife21.com. Newsletter Censored has been taking on the 5 taboos of American life: sex, politics, religion, health, and child rearing for over 30 years. Newsletter Censored will give you the tools to defeat conservatives, to handle right-wing counterfeit Christians. If you'd like to learn more about Newsletter Censored, then go to newslettercensored.com. newslettercensored.com.
And don't forget, listeners, you can hear Health Talk every Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from either www.pirateradionetwork.com or our website, www.megalife21.com. Also, Health Talk will be replayed Saturdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can listen to the replay of the live broadcast that we do on Sundays. The very best way to be a part of this fine or well-established organization is to go to Megalife21.com and click on the newslettercensored.com link that is at our homepage and get the well-established, over 30-year-old newsletter. Get your annual subscription to Newsletter Censored. It was founded by the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman over 30 years ago. It's hard-hitting truth that you're not going to hear anywhere in today's conventional media or the press. The Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, with his army of what he calls his knowledge gnomes, are constantly digging and searching for the real hard-hitting truth that you won't hear anywhere. The Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman will reveal information that will defeat a conservative and right-wing counterfeit Christians. It's a newsletter of truth, enlightenment, fighting censorship and conservative propaganda. The Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman has 4 PhDs. He is an ordained minister also. And he has a PhD in theology and in divinity, in homeopathic medicine, and in naturopathy. He also has a veterinary science diploma. So this man, along with books that he is writing at this moment, he did come out with the original book, How to Defeat a Conservative, and his next book will be The God Project. But that is the best way to be a part of this organization. Get your annual subscription to the well-established 30-year-old newsletter, Newsletter Censored. And please support our sponsors as well at Megalife21.com. Now we return to our scheduled program. Okay, we are back. We will now begin with the first Best of Health Talk. This one is titled Vitamin C Part 3 and Changing Patterns.
Part 3. Does vitamin C function synergistically with other nutrients? As an antioxidant, vitamin C can rejuvenate vitamin E, making it an indirect contributor to the fight against free radical damage in the lipids. It's not surprising then that these two nutrients can be effective partners in reducing the destructive process of lipid peroxidation. In human and animal studies, this reduction took place in subjects with diabetes, cerebral arterial sclerosis, or a heart disorder. Together, vitamins C and E can help to prevent the blood from clotting, a condition that contributes to the risk of stroke. This combination may offer protection against cataracts as well. The synergistic combination of vitamin C and E may be further enhanced by the addition of vitamin A. In one study of 30 elderly long-stay patients, for example, this trio was effective in improving certain aspects of cell-mediated immunity, such as the number of T cells, T4 subsets, and the ratio of T4 and T8 cells. In another study, a complex of vitamins A, E, and C significantly enhanced the characteristics of enzymatic and non-enzymatic antioxidant protection of the liver in mice. Finally, a classic antioxidant combination, vitamin C and E, beta-carotene, and selenium, helped to alleviate pancreatitis, or an inflammation of the pancreas, in a study of 28 patients. Is there any evidence that vitamin C has harmful side effects? Over the years, vitamin C has been blamed for a number of harmful side effects. generating much controversy about the safety of the nutrient. But most of these claims are undeserved. Apparently, vitamin C has a low order of toxicity, or intoxications would be common. Although large intakes may cause adverse effects in some individuals, some of the widely reported and often cited adverse effects have little apparent basis, states John Hathcock in, quote, Safety of Vitamin and Mineral Supplements, unquote. 3 of the most serious side effects that have been attributed to vitamin C are conditioned scurvy, kidney stones, and the destruction of vitamin B12. But in analyzing the studies that reported on the relationship between vitamin C and these health problems, Hathcock has found that there is no real clinical evidence to support the idea that vitamin C is responsible for any of these conditions. One common complaint regarding vitamin C is that it can cause gastrointestinal distress, including cramps, diarrhea, and nausea. These symptoms, which are caused by the acidity rather than the ascorbate itself, seem to disappear when a buffered form of vitamin C is taken. In some cases, the chewable form of vitamin C also has led to erosion of dental enamel. In facilitating the absorption of iron, vitamin C can decrease the intake of copper and lead to a, quote, negative copper balance, unquote, says Hathcock. Well, listeners, that concludes part 3 of vitamin C, and now I would like to discuss something called a challenge to healthcare providers, changing patterns of disease, human health, and the environment. Okay. For most of us, genetic inheritance plays a limited role in determining our health. More important is where and how we live, work, and play. The quality of what we drink, eat, and breathe. From the time of conception, throughout development, and into early and late adulthood, environmental factors either directly impact biological tissues or influence gene expression and shape subsequent disease risks. Although links between exposures to environmental contaminants and health impacts have been known for centuries, recent research documents an expanding list of previously unrecognized effects after fetal or infant exposures. The developing fetus and child are particularly vulnerable to toxic insults. During this time, cells are rapidly dividing and growth is dramatic. Various events, including development of the brain and endocrine, reproductive, and immune systems, are uniquely susceptible to disruption that is often permanent. To compound the problem, pound for pound, children are often disproportionately exposed to toxic environmental agents because of the way they breathe, eat, drink, and play. Moreover, immature detoxification pathways in children frequently result in increased impacts of toxic exposures when compared to adults. Small exposures to substances like lead, mercury, or polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, which have no discernible impact on adults, can permanently damage the developing brain of a child. If the exposure occurs during a window of vulnerability, early exposures to dioxin or polychlorinated biphenyls, chemicals from industrial activities that bioaccumulate in dietary fat, damage the developing immune system, making the child more prone to infections. Risks of asthma and high blood pressure are increased by early environmental exposures. Recent research from Sweden concludes not only that environmental factors play a more important role than genetic inheritance in the origin of most cancers, but also that cancer risk is largely established during the first 20 years of life. Technological developments have dramatically reduced mortality resulting from many diseases. In many instances, however, disease incidence is increasing. Although for some conditions without standardized tracking mechanisms, trends are difficult to determine accurately. The burden from current patterns of disease and disability is enormous and extracts a terrible toll from individuals, families, and communities. Nearly 12 million children in the United States, 17%, suffer from one or more developmental disabilities, including deafness, blindness, epilepsy, speech defects, cerebral palsy, delays in growth and development, behavioral problems, or learning disabilities. Learning disabilities alone affect 5 to 10% of children in public schools, and these numbers appear to be increasing. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder conservatively affects 3 to 6% of all school children, and the number may be considerably higher. The incidence of autism seems to be increasing, though much of this apparent increase may be due to increased reporting. The age-adjusted incidence of melanoma, lung, in females, prostate, liver, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, testis, thyroid, kidney, brain, breast, esophagus, and bladder cancers has steadily increased over the past 25 years. Some birth defects, including disorders of the male reproductive system and some forms of congenital heart disease, are increasingly common. Sperm counts and fertility are in decline in some areas of the United States and other parts of the world. Asthma is more common and more severe than ever before. Genetic factors explain far less than half of the population variance for most of these conditions. Although smoking and sun exposure are well-recognized risk factors for some conditions, improved understanding of development of the brain and the immune, reproductive, respiratory, and cardiovascular systems leads to the conclusion that other environmental factors play a major role in determining current patterns of disease. To the limited degree that healthcare providers address environmental factors at all, most focus nearly all of their attention on personal behaviors, like smoking, substance abuse, or use of sunscreens. These are more easily addressed by individuals than more complex problems like air and water pollution, hazardous waste sites, agricultural systems that inevitably result in farm worker pesticide exposures, and mercury contamination of dietary fish. Global environmental conditions, however, are changing, along with the changing pattern of disease and disability, and our increasing understanding of the importance of environmental factors in determining the health of individuals and populations places a new and special responsibility on the medical profession. Consider that over 6 billion people inhabit the planet, and reasonable mid-level estimates predict 9 to 10 billion by mid-century. 2.5 more Earths would be needed to support today's population if everyone were to use as many resources as Americans do on a per capita basis. The release of ozone-depleting chemicals used for industrial and agricultural purposes has depleted the stratospheric ozone layer and is likely a major contributor to the increased incidence of malignant melanoma. Carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere has increased by nearly 30% in the last 150 years. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that contributes to global warming. Hazardous air pollution, in general, is the norm in most parts of the United States and elsewhere in the world. Humans are responsible for more atmospheric nitrogen fixation than all other sources combined. Nitrates contaminate groundwater, surface water, and air at toxic concentrations. Humans are responsible for most of the mercury deposition on the surface of the earth. Mercury makes its way into the food chain, where it bioconcentrates. In most states, freshwater and marine fish are sufficiently contaminated with mercury to require warnings to women of reproductive age to limit consumption because of risks to fetal brain development. Large numbers of plant and animal species have been driven to extinction, and most marine fisheries are severely depleted. More than half the world's coral reefs are threatened by human activities. In addition to naturally occurring products like lead and mercury that are mined from the earth, novel synthetic industrial chemicals contaminate the world's ecosystems. Its human and non-human inhabitants, their breast milk and egg yolk, ovarian follicles, amniotic fluid, and meconium. The toxicity of most is little known. Of the approximately 85,000 chemicals on the federal inventory, nearly 3,000 are produced in excess of 1 million pounds annually. For these high production volume chemicals, HPV, toxicity data are surprisingly sparse. Even basic toxicity testing results are not publicly available for 75% of them. In the United States, according to the 2000 Toxics Release Inventory, over 6.2 billion pounds of the listed toxic chemicals, including 2 billion pounds of known or suspected neurotoxicants, were released into the environment by major emitters required by federal law to file reports. Emissions from small industries and neighborhood shops are unquantified. The extent of exposure from these releases and from the use of various consumer products that contain them is also largely unknown, but population-based surveys give an indication of the ubiquity of exposures. As the Industrial Revolution has continued to unfold over the last century, humans have fundamentally altered the logic in global environment. We see signals and changing patterns in the development of children and subsequent occurrence and distribution of disease that deserve serious attention. The medical community is challenged to widen its scope of responsibility to embrace a more ecological assessment and response to the emerging pattern of disease and disability. Early in their training, healthcare providers are taught to inquire into the family and social history of their patients or clients. This is not enough. A specific knowledge of the home, community, workplace, and school environment is essential for identifying risks and mapping preventive strategies. Medical education needs to incorporate into the curriculum new understanding of the role of the environment in the development of disease and disability. Health clinicians can also play important roles in policy debates at the community, state, or national level. The division between medical practice and public health practice that began in the early 20th century has not narrowed nearly enough. Healthcare providers can become strong advocates for clean air and water, for communities free of hazardous waste sites, and schools free of toxic chemicals and mold. The public supports a large medical industrial complex, but that support is not limitless. It is time for the medical community to re-examine its priorities and social contract with the public, and to integrate fully and creatively into routine medical care what we know about the causes of the changing patterns of diseases and disabilities. Okay, listeners, that concludes this week's Health Talk. So, Reverend Dr. Bill, do you have any comments that you would like to make on this week's Health Talk?
Okay. That's the conclusion of that Best of Health Talk. Before we get to the other one, which is, I believe it's the Resurrecting the Ugly America. Okay, let's go to commercial with the one and only commercial voiceover specialist, William H. Morrow III. Wait till you hear this guy's voice. Take it away, Billy Morrow. The William H. Morrow III and the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman are standing by live at the Newsletter Center Research Center in northeastern New Jersey, there to do commercial for me to continue the tradition that we once had. Take it away.
Hi, this is William Morrow. Are you one of those people who join a health club, and after they have your big, overpriced annual membership, you notice that you're on your own with little or no results even after all the promises? Then the website Personal Trainer is for you. If you're one of those people who are sick and tired of taking a shower with those annoying low-flow shower heads where it seems like it takes forever to rinse off, then check out Power Your Shower.
Thank you very much, William H. Morrow III. Stop paying full retail prices for brand name nutritional supplements and vitamins. Just simply go to www.megalife21.com, then click on the drop-down menu, then click on Website Personal Trainer, and you'll see a banner at the top of the page. Click on that and start saving up to 75% off brand name nutritional supplements and vitamins. If you are a United States-based fundraising organization, get the ticket that sells itself, professional wrestling. Here at the Ultimate Fundraiser, we have a family-oriented, star-studded, action-packed professional wrestling show that the whole family can enjoy. We will even travel to your area in the country if you purchase the entire show. If you purchase the entire show as a fundraising organization, you can keep all the profits, 100% of the profits on ticket sales, and the sale on food and beverage also. So if you're looking for the ultimate fundraiser, go to www.megalife21.com, click on the drop-down menu, and click on the ultimate fundraiser. And now, back to our regular live scheduled show.
Okay, and now for the next Best of Health Talk, the Resurrecting the Ugly America.
Is titled Resurrecting the Ugly American. Attempts to forge the world's first treaty to regulate trade in genetically modified products failed this morning when the United States and 5 other big agricultural exporters rejected a proposal that had the support of the rest of the roughly 130 nations taking part. Okay, this came out of a past newspaper story from the New York Times, dated February 24th, 1999. Okay. Hundreds of diplomats, scientists, United Nations bureaucrats, and public interest group types went to Cartagena, Colombia earlier that year hoping to conclude a treaty that would help them feel safe with the products of genetic engineering. For 4 years, they had been arguing about environmental and human health dangers, details of risk assessment, procedures for exchanging information and regulating trade, the necessity of ensuring liability and compensation, and so forth. Cartagena was scheduled to be their final negotiation. Worry about genetic engineering had come in the wake of the 1992 Rio Earth Summit and its creation, the Convention on Biological Diversity. The CBD was based on the idea that all the nations and peoples of the world could get together to safeguard what is left of the world's biological resources. In November 1995, the Convention on Biological Diversity members decided to develop a biosafety protocol, a binding treaty that would help prevent the products of genetic engineering from harming living organisms of the planet. By February 1999, there were 175 members of the Convention on Biological Diversity. The United States was not one of them. The Bush administration had refused to sign the CBD partly on the grounds that it threatened U.S. technology, especially the United States biotechnology industry, and partly on the grounds that it would impose unfair financial burdens on the United States. The Clinton administration signed the CBD, but the treaty was never ratified by the Senate. Although not a member of the CBD, the U.S. sent a large delegation to all CBD meetings, dominated the biosafety discussions, and generally enjoyed most of the privileges and few, if any, of the responsibilities of membership. By the time negotiations in Cartagena were nearing their end, the United States was the main player. For whatever reason, the size of the United States biotechnology industry and the hope of other nations not to be left behind, the difficulty of enforcing a protocol without the tacit agreement of the largest biotech player in the world, the extent of United States economic might, the amount of testosterone in the State Department, the exaggerated power of transnational corporations, the state of the world's economy, the rest of the world led the United States play the bully at Cartagena. The United States was not alone in the role of bully. 5 allies, Canada, Australia, Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay, helped it hold sway over the rest of the world. 6 of them, like some Sydney Green Street gang in a B-movie, were known in Cartagena as the Miami Group, the city in which they had met for the first time. The protocol the Miami Group nixed the last night in Cartagena had already been negotiated into near impotence. The precautionary principle, cornerstone of the Rio Earth Summit, the better safe than sorry, beacon of what to do in the face of insufficient scientific evidence, have been reduced to a mere mention of its name in the preamble. Liability, the guide to assigning responsibility if something goes wrong with the products of genetic engineering, had been virtually eliminated. Socio-economic concerns, consideration of whether an engineered product could destroy a country's economy or agriculture or culture, had been exercised. The scope of the proposed protocol had been narrowed to such an extent that no one in Cartagena was sure it actually applied to anything. The document allowed trade between countries that signed the document and those that did not, thereby eliminating any incentive to sign. And the word label, quote unquote, as in the need to label genetically engineered food, was nowhere to be found. Virtually everything the biosafety high ground players had fought over the years had been lost by the end of the negotiations. Even so, the Miami group balked at allowing a biosafety protocol which might apply to their genetically engineered commodities. From the earliest days of the CBD, leadership on biosafety had come from the developing world, not from countries with large biotechnology industries to protect. While the United States asserted that the dangers of genetic engineering were being exaggerated, that industry was doing sufficient testing that too stringent a protocol would not meet the free trade tests of the World Trade Organization, the negotiator for the African group. Ethiopia's Dr. Tewald Burhan Gebre Egziabher, doing my best to pronounce this, reminded the United States that a biosafety protocol was meant to be an environmental treaty, not a trade treaty. While John Neville, representative of the Seychelles, reasoned that safety not to be sacrificed to expediency, quote unquote, Ralph Pomerantz, one-time policy analyst with Friends of the Earth and the World Resources Institute, now Deputy Assistant to the Secretary of State, ranted that he was, quote, not going to let anyone do anything that might harm a $68 billion a year industry in the United States, unquote. The whole tone of the Cartagena meeting suggested that someone was trying to pull strings. There was gossip that Andrew Young had been sent to Africa before the meeting to whip the biosafety troublemakers into line. There were whispers that President Clinton had made a last-minute phone call to the head of the European Union, seeking to nudge him into the Miami camp. Some of the rumored pressures may have worked. The Europeans had arrived in Cartagena saying that they would play the middle ground, quote, between the extremes, unquote, of the Miami group and the African group. Late the last night, the representative of the European Union, a group of nations whose citizens were demanding labeling, moratoria, and bans, quietly agreed to scuttle the precautionary principle. Quote, it's all just the big boys jockeying for market position, unquote, explained one diplomat. Further adding to the Byzantine humid atmosphere was the fact that so many of the early meetings of importance in Cartagena were held in rooms behind closed doors. At almost any hour you could find angry delegates in the corridors outside those doors saying how it all reminded them of, quote, the old colonial game, unquote, or the old days under the Soviets, quote unquote. Whatever was going on and whoever was really in charge, the Miami group held firm, insisting on a narrowly focused treaty with minimal impact on industry, claiming the United States had made many compromises, but not detailing what they were. Ralph Pomerantz later would be quoted in the New York Times saying, quote, there were two compromises we were not prepared to make. One is to tie up trade in the world's food supply. The second is to allow this regime, without a lot of deliberation, to undermine the World Trade Organization trading regime, unquote. The Miami group refused to allow the protocol to apply to their genetically engineered corn and wheat, arguing that commodities meant for eating and processing do not enter the environment but not explaining where else is it possible for them to go. They kibosh the protocol. At about 5 in the morning, several hours after negotiations were to have concluded, exhausted delegates agreed to suspension of negotiations. Talks were to be resumed no later than May of 2000. The New York Times reported that, quote, bleary-eyed delegates from many nations expressed fury at the United States, accused it of intransigence and of putting the interests of its world-leading farming and biotechnology industries above the environment, quote, unquote. While the headline in the Miami Sun-Sentinel reported just as bluntly, quote, critics claim United States greed is at root of refusal to sign biosafety treaty, unquote. Taking it personally, the person who reported this story originally was there in Cartagena, pretty bleary-eyed and furious, like many non-governmental organization representatives. The person had followed, or the reporter had followed the negotiations for years. Convinced of the need for a protocol, we had all consulted scientists and put out white papers and published booklets and given workshops and ignored our families while we were organized consultations and rallies and whatever else we thought might bring some biosafety. And at the end of it all, none of it seemed to matter. To be there that last night in Cartagena, and this is a detailed description of what happened there by this reporter, and to realize that the whole world might get no biosafety because one country and its allies refused to allow their genetically engineered commodities to be regulated. To know that there were environmental and human health hazards and they would not be met by precaution. To remember what the head of the United States delegation, Melinda Kimball, had said to a group of NGOs the night before. Quote, the only treaty less popular in the United States than the Convention on Biological Diversity is the Treaty on the Rights of the Child, unquote. And to recall the audible gasp that followed her remarks as the meaning sunk in. The future was officially unpopular in the United States. It was too much. Right after negotiations broke down in Cartagena, I ran into someone from the Food and Drug Administration, the wonderful FDA, in the corridor. He was on the U.S. delegation. How can you stand yourself? The reporter asked him. A nearby delegate from Eastern Europe overheard the reporter and looked shocked. Quote, Beth gets very emotional, unquote, the FDA guy explained. Quote, if rationality means risking ecological and human health on the planet for the sake of profits of one industry, unquote. I responded, then I certainly hope I'm emotional. Quote, you see what I mean, unquote, said the FDA guy to the delegate. Quote, you're an evil man, unquote, I told the FBI guy. The listening delegate, who happened to know me, attempted to intervene. Quote, Beth, this is not an evil man, I know him. He's a very nice person, really, unquote. Quote, no, I explained, this is not a nice person. He may seem like a nice person. He may be very pleasant, but he carries an evil message. If I allow myself to think of him as a nice man, if I do not insist that he is personally responsible for the messages he utters, then one day I am certain he will come and tell me that he was only following orders, unquote. The delegate got my message. I'm not sure about the FDA guy. A few steps down the corridor, the reporter ran into the reporter from the New York Times. Quote, Beth, what do you think about all of this, unquote. Quote, what do you think I mean? The environment's always the loser, always. There was no moral high ground here. There was no scientific high ground. There was just cheap power politics, unquote. I was still upset, meaning the reporter, when I got on the plane for Bogota, Colombia, about 2 hours later. The plane was full of tired-looking delegates. I found my seat. It was on the aisle. When the window seat occupant showed up, it turned out to be Melinda Kimball, head of the U.S. delegation. I started to laugh. By then, I'd already shouted at her a lot. Everyone on the plane had probably heard me shout at her at least once. I had nothing more to say. I moved my legs aside so she could climb into her seat. I took out a book and turned back to her as far as I could without undoing the seatbelt. I didn't speak to her the whole trip. The politics of shunning. When I got back home, I allowed myself one last useless gesture. I wrote the president in part. I told him, quote, there was a lot of bitterness and anger at the end of the negotiations in Cartagena, and while not all such feeling should be attributed to the bullying style of diplomacy favored by our delegation, all the anger and bitterness, I believe, will come to be directed at the people and government of the United States. Okay, this is all detailed description by this reporter. Quote, because the United States has demonstrated an ability to push its way into the heart of negotiations among parties to a treaty our country has not yet ratified, it will be assumed, and perhaps correctly so, that we are behind every untoward event, utterance, or outcome associated with this treaty. Every use of rules to subvert or prevent the utterance of opposing views, and there was a great deal of such so-called rule manipulation in Cartagena, will be designated an act of the United States. Every personal slight or embarrassment experienced by any of the delegates, and there were many such slights in Cartagena, will be experienced as an affront committed by the United States. Every utterance about the needs of our $68 billion a year industry will be understood as an attack on the environment and citizens of other countries. Continuous argument about protection of our industries will make us hated. We will be seen as the fat, despised, and privileged members of a society seeking only to make more money and become more privileged. Quote, one of the third world delegates in Cartagena, a gentle scientist who found himself among many other outside closed doors, waiting to hear news from the few real negotiators within, said to me, and this is a reporter that he was speaking to, I honestly thought I was doing something here. I honestly thought our discussions in the contact groups were meaningful. I honestly thought I was making a contribution worthy of what it cost my government to send me here. But this, where all of us wait while they try to force a protocol by using rules most of us hardly know. This is just brutal power, just like the old colonial days. Quote, another delegate asked me on the last day, do they wish to push us into the arms of Saddam? Well, this is embarrassing, Reverend Dr. Bill, because the United States is supposed to set a positive example to the rest of the world, because we are the so-called wealthiest and most powerful nation, and we are supposedly God's country, and it's always God bless America. It's never God bless anybody else. And we're supposed to set positive examples, but the only example we tend to be setting abroad, which is causing a great deal of dissension, is the example that we're all extremely greedy, self-serving, spoiled people. I mean, in this case, it's the greed of corporate America. I'm sure you have some comments that you would like to make about this week's Health Talk.
Okay, that concludes that episode, that Health Talk topic. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to commercial with the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman before going on to the next Health Talk topic, which is going to be cold care for puppies and kittens. Will be the next topic. So take it away, Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman with commercial.
Are you reaching your fitness goals working out on your own or with a training partner? Has your health club fulfilled any of the promises made before they took that expensive annual membership fee? After you paid the expensive annual health club membership fee, does it include any personal training? Save money and avoid the high cost of one-on-one personal trainers, nutritional consultants, health club sales packages, with this complete, comprehensive fitness program with the website Personal Trainer. And are you sick and tired of all those low-flow shower heads where it seems like it takes forever to rinse off? Especially you ladies with long, thick hair. If so, then power your shower. These imported shower heads cannot be found in American stores. The website Personal Trainer and Power Your Shower can be found at www.megalife21.com. That's Megalife21.com. Newsletter Censored has been taking on the 5 taboos of American life: sex, politics, religion, health, and child rearing for over 30 years. Newsletter Censored will give you the tools to defeat the conservatives, to handle right-wing counterfeit Christians. If you'd like to learn more about Newsletter Censored, then go to newslettercensored.com. newslettercensored.com.
Okay. Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman. Now we'll go to the next topic, which is cold care for puppies and kittens.
Okay, listeners, this week's Health Talk is going to be for animal lovers. It is called Cold Care for Kittens and Puppies. Scenario here. Okay, I have a new puppy that always seems to have a cold. He just doesn't seem to be healthy. Is there anything natural I can try? I suggest giving supplemental bovine colostrum a try. Colostrum, packed with protein, growth factors, enzymes, hormones, and micronutrients, has a great potential for healing. I use it for kittens and puppies that are not thriving, as well as for sick older animals, or simply as a health booster. All my geriatric patients go on colostrum. Animals often improve within days. I use a powdered supplement from New Zealand, available at health food stores and pharmacies. The dosage is 1/8 to 1/2 teaspoon 4 times a day, depending on the size of the animal. Dilute in water and feed directly with a syringe or a baby bottle. Or if the animal is eating solids, sprinkle the powder on the food. Once an animal is stable, reduce frequency to once a day and use about 1/3 teaspoon for up to 25 pounds of body weight. 1/3 teaspoon per 25 pounds is also my starting dosage for older animals. Colostrum bolsters the digestive tract and the immune system, which are intrinsically connected. The gut is not only where digestion takes place, but also where the body neutralizes pathogens that enter through the mouth. Colostrum balances the gut's beneficial bacteria, fortifies the critical immune agents operating there, and enhances nutrient absorption. I have great results in dogs and cats with chronic or acute diarrhea and immune deficiencies. Not to mention the miraculous results with humans with colostrum. For persistent problems, consult a veterinarian. Okay, tip of the month. When you feed your pet, think of quality and not just the quantity of protein, fat, carbohydrate, and added vitamins listed on the pet food label. Freshness, wholesomeness, energy, and digestibility of food also counts. In these categories, holistic veterinarians give low grades to most commercial foods. Supplement your pet with nutritious table scraps to expand the variety of the menu and nutritional intake. Personally, myself, I am very partial to a company called Innova when it comes to feeding dogs and cats, kittens and puppies. Just compare the ingredients with all of the other brands, and now nothing comes close to Innova for quality. Okay, the next listeners, the final segment of this week's Health Talk is called Eat Your Veggies, Fight Breast Cancer. Breast cancer patients may help keep the disease in check with a high-fiber, low-fat diet that includes lots of fruits and vegetables. One reason may be that fiber flushes estrogen, of course high levels of which may promote breast cancer, out of the body. A year-long study of breast cancer patients showed that women who follow a cancer prevention diet, including high fruit and vegetable intake and reduced fat consumption, in addition to participating in related cooking classes and phone counseling, had significantly lower estrogen levels than a comparison group. The group that ended up with higher estrogen levels ate a higher fat diet and received cooking classes that were not specifically aimed at cancer prevention. Average fiber intake in the cancer prevention group was 29 grams per day, in contrast to 22 grams per day in the comparison group. Average fat intake in the cancer prevention group was 21% per day, while the comparison group's average fat intake was 28%. This is from the Journal of Clinical Oncology, 2004. Okay, listeners, the next segment, which I would like to continue from the previous one to finalize this week's Health Talk, is called Brain Food. Creativity, enriching experiences, plus the right nutrients can produce new brain cells. There's a popular misconception
that we use only 10% of our brains. Another myth is that after we reach adulthood, we don't make any more brain cells. It turns out that we use far more of our brains than researchers once thought, and we routinely grow new brain cells. Nutrition and life experiences influence the number of neurons and synapses, which is connections, in our brains. Described simply, to make new brain cells, an existing cell must first duplicate its deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. The new DNA will contain the biological instructions that govern cell function. But to make new DNA, a brain cell must have adequate amounts of several B vitamins, including folic acid and vitamins B3, B6, and B12. Other nutrients are also needed for DNA to do its job, including vitamin C, zinc, selenium, and amino acids. Without them, you can't make either new DNA or new cells. Your day-to-day experiences also foster or inhibit neurogenesis. For example, stresses during infancy interfere with the production of brain cells and lead to smaller brains. Conversely, experiences that provide psychological security stimulate growth of brain cells. This dynamic activity of the brain continues throughout life, and brain cells and synapses are formed and reshaped every day. Negative emotions, work pressures, and bad relationships reduce neurogenesis and increase the risk of depression and anxiety. Meanwhile, enriching experiences have a more positive effect. Ernest Rossi, PhD, an eminent psychologist and author of The Psychobiology of Gene Expression, published by W. Norton and Company, 2002, described how we can promote healthy brain development as adults. He wrote that novelties such as travel to new places, being creative or enjoying other people's creativity, and exercise can promote neurogenesis and healing. All that should make perfect sense. After all, it's more proof of our mind-body connection. Okay, I want to talk about the herb Rhodiola rosea, which is also commonly known as Arctic root. Rhodiola rosea is a relative newcomer in herbal medicine in the United States, but its therapeutic powers are well known in many other parts of the world. In the Rhodiola Revolution by Rodale Books 2004 by Richard P. Brown, MD, and Patricia L. Gerbarg, MD, you'll find compelling research spanning 30 years, plus case studies documenting the herb's benefits for health concerns, including stress, fatigue, anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, memory, and sexual function. Tips on finding a quality product, plus storage, usage, and dosage guidelines are included. Average dosage for rhodiola is 200 to 400 milligrams per day. Kids low on vitamin D. Kids are filling up on soft drinks instead of milk and spending less time in the sun. Well, I blame computers and video games for that. And, it's up to the parents to monitor their children to make sure they're consuming the right foods and beverages. And a lot of parents evidently are not paying close attention to their kids. Okay, thanks to the Dr. Spock mentality and approach to parenting, it's a complete failure. Okay, the whole concept of of not disciplining your child the old-fashioned way. And it's taking its toll. A study of 11 to 18-year-olds in Boston found that about 1/4 were deficient in vitamin D and 5% were severely deficient. This may be an indication of a national problem. Adequate vitamin D synthesized from sunlight and available in fortified cereals and milk is crucial for calcium absorption and bone development. Kids who said they drank milk and ate cereal were less likely to be low on vitamin D, according to study results that analyzed blood samples from 307 kids. For kids who don't like milk or are allergic to dairy products, there are vitamin D enriched juices, and multivitamins are a good option. I would go with the multivitamin and not so much the juice. And we don't want there's enough hyperactivity in children nowadays, attention deficit disorder, and all this caused by too many carbs in the diet. Too much, in the case of children, too much sugar. Says the study's author, Catherine M. Gordon, MD, from the Archives of Pediatrics and Adolescent Medicine, 2004. And to finalize this week's Health Talk, this is a cute article called Use Your Marbles. I find this interesting because I see these marbles at the dollar store every time I go. Ever feel like you're losing it? Try keeping a bowl of marbles on your desk or wherever you spend most of your time working or studying. While they can serve as a lovely aesthetic addition to your office or home decor, their more important function is to act as your personal reflexology masseuse. Put a handful under your desk and roll your feet over them. This will stimulate the reflex points on your soles, which will relax and invigorate your entire body. For those of you that are familiar with reflexology, very similar to acupuncture. Stimulates certain vital pressure points under your feet, or it could be your hands, or even your ears if you massage them. Certain pressure points are connected to every organ in every section of your body, and it involves the free flowing and stimulation of the electromagnetic pathways known as meridians. Here's how, courtesy of SPA, Simple Steps for Health and Well-Being by Andrea McLeod, Chronicle Books, 2004. Place a handful of marbles on the floor by your feet. Roll both feet slowly and firmly over the marbles. Your massage can go on for as long as you wish, but give yourself at least 5 minutes. Note, using a golf ball will have the same effect. Make sure to stash one in your bag when you travel. But I think the marbles might be a little more stimulating because you have the rotation of many small balls rather than just the one. Okay, interesting. All right, Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, would you like to comment on this week's Health Talk at all?
Okay. Now let's go to commercial with the one and only William H. Morrow III.
Hi, this is William Morrow. Are you one of those people who join a health club, and after they have your big, overpriced annual membership, you notice that you're on your own with little or no results even after all the promises? Then the website Personal Trainer is for you. If you're one of those people who are sick and tired of taking a shower with those annoying low-flow shower heads where it seems like it takes forever to rinse off, then check out Power Your Shower.
Thank you very much, William H. Morrow III. Stop paying full retail prices for brand name nutritional supplements and vitamins. Just simply go to www.megalife21.com, then click on the drop-down menu, then click on Website Personal Trainer, and you'll see a banner at the top of the page. Click on that and start saving up to 75% off brand name nutritional supplements and vitamins. If you are a United States based fundraising organization, get the ticket that sells itself, professional wrestling. Here at the Ultimate Fundraiser, we have a family-oriented, star-studded, action-packed professional wrestling show that the whole family can enjoy. We will even travel to your area in the country if you purchase the entire show. If you purchase the entire show as a fundraising organization, you can keep all the profits, 100% of the profits on ticket sales, and the sale on food and beverage also. So if you're looking for the ultimate fundraiser, go to www.megalife21.com, click on the drop-down menu, and click on the ultimate fundraiser. And now, back to our regular live scheduled show.
And don't forget, listeners, you can hear Health Talk every Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from either www.pirateradionetwork.com or our website, www.megalife21.com. Also, Health Talk will be replayed Saturdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can listen to the replay of the live broadcast that we do on Sundays. The very best way to be a part of this fine or well-established organization is to go to Megalife21.com and click on the newslettercensored.com link that is at our homepage and get the well-established, over 30-year-old newsletter. Get your annual subscription to Newsletter Censored. It was founded by the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman over 30 years ago. It's hard-hitting truth that you're not going to hear anywhere in today's conventional media or the press. The Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, with his army of what he calls his knowledge gnomes, are constantly digging and searching for the real hard-hitting truth that you won't hear anywhere. The Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman will reveal information that will defeat a conservative and right-wing counterfeit Christians. It's a newsletter of truth, enlightenment, fighting censorship and conservative propaganda. The Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman has 4 PhDs. He is an ordained minister also. And he has a PhD in theology and in divinity, in homeopathic medicine, and in naturopathy. He also has a veterinary science diploma. So this man, along with books that he is writing at this moment, he did come out with the original book, How to Defeat a Conservative, and his next book will be The God Project. But that is the best way to be a part of this organization. Get your annual subscription to the well-established 30-year-old newsletter, Newsletters Censored. And please support our sponsors as well at Megalife21.com. Now we return to our scheduled program. Okay, the next health talk is the truth about cellulite.
Okay, listeners, this week's health talk is going to be fat or fiction, the truth about cellulite. You may never be able to completely eliminate it, but you can fight it every step of the way. Here's what works and what doesn't. In 1973, a salon owner, Nicole Ronsard, published one of the first books on cellulite, titled Cellulite, Those Lumps, Bumps, and Bulges You Couldn't Lose Before, by the Beauty and Health Publishing Corporation. Since then, doctors, researchers, and aestheticians have had conflicting opinions about what cellulite really is. According to many doctors, it's fat with a twist. It's just the way women were put together, says Mitchell Goldman, MD, Associate Clinical Professor of Dermatology at the University of California, San Diego, and Medical Director at La Jolla Spa, MD. Quote, men store fat in beer bellies, women store it in cellulite, unquote. So why the lumps and bumps? Between the skin and the muscle is a space that's filled with fat cells. Fibrous bands in the fascia surrounding the muscles do not give to allow the fat to spread under the skin, but instead force the fat to the surface. First, the bad news. No matter how thin you are, you can still have bumps. Quote, you'll lose cellulite only if you lose all your body fat, unquote, says Goldman. But there's some hope. Cellulite can be treated with lifestyle changes and a few natural products. Diet do's and don'ts. Allergies and food sensitivities may contribute to cellulite. Quote, fluid retention can form in response to any toxin or food sensitivity, says Kat James, author of The Truth About Beauty, Beyond Words Publishing, 2003. Quote, the body will accumulate water in order to dilute and sequester toxins into pockets to keep them from the vital organs and bloodstream, unquote. If you have food sensitivities or allergies, try eliminating the offending substances from your diet for at least 2 weeks. If you're not sure, a visit to a nutritionist can help you identify trigger foods. The right diet can also strengthen connective tissue, making cellulite less obvious. According to Susan Lark, MD, author of The Woman's Health Companion by Celestial Arts, 1995, focus on fruits and vegetables high in vitamin C and bioflavonoids. Exercise and lifestyle. Regular exercise reduces body fat, firms muscles, and tones the skin, so cellulite is less obvious. On the other hand, cellulite may be worsened by bad habits. Quote, too much coffee exhausts the adrenals and raises cortisol, adding to fluid retention, unquote, says James. Quote, smoking is bad for circulation, and eating too much salt or not drinking enough water can cause water retention and create more of a toxin buildup, increasing swelling, unquote. Lotions, creams, and gels. Makers of creams, lotions, and gels are quick to remind us that cellulite can't be cured, only treated. Creams work by stimulating blood flow, causing lipolysis of fat, and by helping the fibrous banding in the skin loosen so fat cells don't bulge through, says Goldman. Some products contain aminophyllene, which can cause heart palpitations. Better alternatives. Caffeine, used topically, reduces fat content in cells by blocking an enzyme that inhibits fat breakdown. It may be listed as caffeine, cola nut, or tea. Cocoa contains theobromine, an alkaloid that penetrates to the subcutaneous fat layer and may help stimulate the release of stored fat. Theophylline is an alkaloid found in black and green teas that is absorbed into the subcutaneous fat layer where it boosts circulation. Dimethylaminoethanol helps improve the tone of skin to reduce the appearance of cellulite. It may be found in combination with alpha-lipoic acid, a natural anti-inflammatory. Retinol, which is vitamin A alcohol, has been shown in studies to help reduce cellulite. Retinol increases the turnover of epidermal cells and thickens the epidermis and dermis, says Nicholas Perricone, MD, author of The Perricone Prescription by Harper Resource 2002. So you won't see the pebbling effect of the fat cells beneath. Herbs and supplements. In one small study, taking conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, with an herbal anticellulite formula improved cellulite more than taking the anticellulite pill alone. In another small unpublished study, 58% of volunteers reported very good results after taking Gatu Cola. Other herbs that may help. Horse chestnut contains askin. It can reinforce the strength of veins, support circulation, and prevent swelling. Dosage: 250 milligrams of standardized extract capsule twice a day, or 1 teaspoon of liquid extract twice a day. Bladderwrack. A seaweed is high in iodine, which the body needs to produce a metabolism regulating hormone. Dosage: 600 milligrams of standardized extract twice a day. Note, bladderwrack should be standardized to not more than 150 micrograms of iodine daily. Ginkgo biloba contains terpene lactones, which help increase blood flow. Dosage: 40 to 60 milligrams of ginkgo extract 3 times a day. Evening primrose oil contains gamma-linolenic acid, GLA, which may help improve skin elasticity. Dosage for that is 1,000 milligrams of evening primrose oil 3 times a day. Grape seed extract contains procyanidolic oligomers that help maintain skin elasticity. Dosage: 100 milligrams of standardized extract 2 or 3 times a day. And I also recommend that you get a grapeseed extract with a minimum of 95% proanthocyanidins, no less. For more about cellulite treatments, visit www.celluliteexpert.com. Okay, Reverend Dr. William J. Eisman, would you like to comment on this week's health talk about cellulite?
Okay. Now, let us go to commercial with none other than the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisman.
Are you reaching your fitness goals working out on your own or with a training partner? Has your health club fulfilled any of the promises made before they took that expensive annual membership fee? After you paid the expensive annual health club membership fee, does it include any personal training? Save money and avoid the high cost of one-on-one personal trainers, nutritional consultants, health club sales packages. With this complete, comprehensive fitness program with the website Personal Trainer. And are you sick and tired of all those low-flow shower heads where it seems like it takes forever to rinse off? Especially you ladies with long, thick hair. If so, then power your shower. These imported shower heads cannot be found in American stores. The website Personal Trainer and Power Your Shower can be found at www.megalife21.com. That's Megalife21.com. Newsletter Censored has been taking on the 5 taboos of American life: sex, politics, religion, health, and child rearing for over 30 years. Newsletter Censored will give you the tools to defeat conservatives, to handle right-wing counterfeit Christians. If you'd like to learn more about Newsletter Censored, then go to newslettercensored.com. newslettercensored.com.
Okay. The last topic of this week's Health Talk is titled Trace Minerals Diet Essentials.
Listeners, this week's Health Talk is Trace Minerals Diet Essentials. Just because your body needs them in smaller amounts doesn't make them insignificant. They're just as important to health as the macro minerals. Here's the scoop on trace mineral formulas. Trace minerals support bone and joint health, help control electrolyte and fluid balances, and more. Product. Trace mineral formulas, calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, are considered to be the macro minerals. The trace minerals include iron, zinc, iodine, copper, selenium, manganese, fluoride, chromium, silicon, and molybdenum. Sodium, chloride, and potassium, often included in trace mineral formulas, are classified as electrolytes. Although we tend to think of minerals as necessary for maintaining the body's structural components, mainly bones, minerals are necessary for hundreds of biochemical reactions involving proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Several key antioxidant enzymes produced by the body require the presence of trace minerals such as copper, zinc, and manganese. A number of other minerals and trace elements such as boron and vanadium exist that may be said to influence human physiology. Note: many companies use the terms trace element and trace mineral interchangeably. An element is a member of a small number of atoms that make up all matter, while a mineral, which has a particular crystalline structure, may or may not be a single element. Common forms. Trace minerals come in capsules, tablets, powders, gels, and liquid, and are often included in multivitamin, multimineral formulas. Sources vary greatly. Minerals are sometimes derived from mineral-rich clay or mined sediments of former seabeds. At other times, minerals are concentrated by the evaporation of mineral-rich water sources. Minerals may be delivered as simple natural concentrates or purified and reacted with oxygen or chlorine, amino acids, protein molecules, or vitamins, such as ascorbic acid or niacin. You may find ionic, which is charged minerals easily transported across the digestive tract, colloidal, which is derived from clay and plant sources, and chelated, minerals which are bound with organic acids on store shelves.
Hi, this is William Morrow. Are you one of those people who join a health club, and after they have your big, overpriced annual membership, you notice that you're on your own with little or no results even after all the promises? Then the website Personal Trainer is for you.
Thank you very much, William H. Morrow III.
So you lost another argument with a conservative, right-wing Republican. He talked over you. He screamed and yelled. He brought out the Bible. He thumped it. He quoted scripture to you. You were lost because you came at him with facts. Nothing but facts. And you expected that would make you look good. That would make you win the argument, but it didn't. You know why you lost the argument? You know why you're going to lose your next argument? Because you don't read Censored. Censored, the 30-year-old newsletter that shows you how to defeat a conservative. Read Censored, and you'll have all the ammunition you need. Every time you get into an argument with a right-wing conservative, so-called Christian. Censored. That's all you need. Read it and defeat a conservative.
Greetings, listeners. Let me speak to you for a moment about the foundation of our entire organization, Newsletters Censored. It was founded by our mentor, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, in 1977. It discusses the 5 taboos of American life: politics, religion, health, human sexuality, and child rearing. You won't find anything like this in the mainstream media and the press. It reveals the kind of truth that most people are afraid to hear. Can you handle it? We are living in the end times, so in order to defeat a conservative and save America, you need Newsletter Censored. Go to www.newslettercensored.com, click on the printable order form page, and with your gift to support this work, get your free annual subscription. This is James P. Madonna of Megalife21, the hardest hitting internet talk radio station on the planet.